Okay, good. And I'm going to share my desktop. All right. So we will start in 2 minutes. How's everybody doing? Keeping safe?
Oh, yeah.
Practicing social distancing and all of that good stuff? That's good. Oregon has been lucky, somewhat, relatively speaking, lucky.
Oh, yeah.
So hopefully that will continue to be the case.
I think the last number I heard was 1,100.
Yeah.
In Oregon?
Yeah.
In Oregon, yes.
Like Lynn County's like number 4, I think.
Benton County has, yes, as of yesterday, 21 cases and 1 death. So definitely in the community, that's why we're exercising social distancing.
I know a lot of people who liked social distancing before this all happened.
Like me.
I was thinking Cody was my husband.
It's true. It's true. Except now it's for all of us, not just some.
But some of us are more uncomfortable with it than others.
Yeah, it's very true. It's very
I'm
true.
a touchy, huggy person. I'm dying over here.
Yeah, I do miss going to coffee shops and restaurants, and that's what I miss the most.
I miss the movie theaters.
Oh, okay, that too. But I'm happier than most. I live next to McDonald Forest in Corvallis. So as soon as this class is done, I'm going to take my puppy and go into the forest. And sometimes I see one, sometimes I see 2 people, sometimes I see nobody. So, but it's nice to have in your backyard.
Yeah. Foster Lake is completely dead, and my dog can run to his heart's content. I live by Foster Lake.
That's nice.
The dog can run and run and run and run, and I don't have to worry about, you know, what dog he's going to run into.
That's good.
Woody, I'm going to send you a private chat to make sure you can get it, okay?
I'll go ahead and mute myself so you can get any feedback.
Yep. So if you could all mute, I would really appreciate that. And of course, if you have a question, if you have something to say, go ahead and unmute and say it. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Good morning, everybody. It's 10 o'clock and welcome to CS 285, Network Defense Security. Yes, this is an online class and I would like to simulate a classroom environment as much as possible. So I appreciate you being here today. I hope to see you in future classes as well. And let's simulate a real class environment. Let's make sure this is a 2-way, not just 1-way. And it will be 2-way once we start doing labs, and we'll start doing labs together on Wednesday. Chapter 1 doesn't really have many labs, but Chapter 2 has a lot. And we're gonna start Chapter 2 on Wednesday. So we will have ample time to do all the labs we wanna do. So this is the agenda. Item number 2, Zoom Etiquette. I think you're all practicing it, which is muting. You can leave your camera on, but mute the microphone until you have something to say, and that will cut back on the number of echoes we get. Syllabus, let's go ahead and log on to Net Academy, everybody. If you haven't logged on, go ahead and do that, please. And you can see the syllabus in the navigation pane. So let's go ahead and click on it. And this is CS 285. So we have 4 CIS 15X courses. Some of you have taken all 4, which is great. Some of you have taken 1, 2, and are taking CIS 153 and 285 at the same time. I don't know if I would do that, but I respect your decision. And this is the Network Defense Security course. And we talk about everything that deals with securities, specifically defensive security. 284 was offensive security. This is the defensive security course. And I'm going to assume all of you have taken CS 284 from Mark in the winter. Okay. So the prerequisites 151, 152, 284. I'm going to assume all of you have taken these courses. I know more than half of you have taken 153 and 154 as well. Yes, we do need a broadband internet connection because we're doing this course online, and it would help greatly if you have a good internet connection. Assignments, it's the same routine for all of my networking courses. There's a chapter exam that is due on Sunday, and the labs are due on Wednesday. And that will always be the case. So you have a chapter exam every single Sunday. We have 11 chapters in 9 weeks, everybody, because we only have 10 weeks this quarter. And Monday of week 10 is SBA, and sorry, Tuesday. This is a Tuesday, Thursday class. So Tuesday of week 10 is the SBA, and Thursday of week 10 is the final exam. So we don't really have time to cover any material on week 10. So we only have 9 weeks, 11 chapters, which means 2 weeks we're going to be covering 2 chapters each. So we can go through all 11 chapters, and that is my plan. But the exams are always due on Sunday, and the labs are always due on Wednesday. And by now you all know that you zip all the packet tracer files, the Microsoft Word PDF files together using Microsoft Zip, not a third utility zip, and then you upload the file into NetAcademy. Okay, and yes, we do have an SBA, and that is Tuesday of week 10. Yes, we do have a final, and you have to pass the final, just like you've had to pass the finals for previous networking courses. And this is what the grade is going to be based on. So the labs are 50%, the chapter exams or tests are 15%, the SBA is 10, and the final exam is 25. And you have to pass the final exam. Some of you have seen this table before, but I'm going to go over it very quickly just in case you haven't or have forgotten. So these are my responsibilities and your responsibilities. I commit to starting all classes on time like I did today. I commit to showing up to class prepared like I hope I did today. I do plan to do a lot of hands-on labs during the class session, which we will start doing on Wednesday, not much today. I do have office hours Tuesday, Thursday at 1. So just go to the instructor website and schedule a meeting, and we'll use Zoom to meet face-to-face. And I will grade within 3 days, and I will get back to you if you send me an email within 24 hours, including weekends. If you send me something on Saturday, I'll get back to you no later than Sunday. So these are my responsibilities, along with lecturing and grading and the rest of the instructor responsibilities. Your responsibilities, this is an online class. You don't really need to attend, but showing up is important, and I believe you will always learn something. You agree to actively participate. You agree to spend an average of 4 hours or more a week. By now, you know that the networking courses are time consuming. So it's going to take some time to go over the NetAcademy material, maybe 2 or 3 hours just to go over the NetAcademy material, and then you still have to do the labs. And that's few more hours. And this is maybe more demanding than some of the other courses because we're dealing with security, and there's a lot of security things that we will cover, and you will need to internalize before you can do the work. You agree to complete all the readings and assessments on time, Sunday for exams, Wednesday for the labs, and always collaborate professionally with everybody. Are we good? Okay.
Yep.
We talked about this. We're all grown-ups here. I think we all know the importance of academic honesty, and if you have an accommodation, please do let me know. And some of you have already told me that. Even if you don't have an official accommodation, do let me know, and I will do my very best to accommodate you. I want all of you to succeed. This is an important metric for me personally, that all of my students succeed, and I will do everything I can to enable you to succeed. So if there's something you would like me to do I'm not doing, do let me know. So any questions on the syllabus? Success criteria, it's the standard: show up, participate, and do the work. And this is not just a success criteria for this course, this is success criteria for life, right, everybody? You finish your schooling, you get a job, well, you better show up and show up on time. And you better participate and you better do the work. Okay. And if you have a significant other, same thing, you better show up, participate, and do the work. And schooling is no different. So let's take a look inside the Net Academy curriculum for 285, which is where we were just a minute ago. So I'm going to go back here. And if you were to click on assignments, remember this is the instructor version of the course, so yours is going to look different. And you can see chapter 1 labs, chapter 2 labs, chapter 3 labs. And if you take a close look at the dates, they're all different dates, okay? I don't think we have labs for chapter 11. And then we do have a pre-test exam, which is due this Sunday. You do have a chapter 1 exam, which is due this Sunday. And I haven't configured the exams for the remaining weeks, but I will. And you will have a minimum of 1 exam each Sunday. And in 2 Sundays, you will have 2 exams. And this Sunday, you have 2 because you have the pre-test exam as well as chapter 1 exam. So let's take a look at the chapters. If you go ahead and you launch the course, everybody, and we're not going to dive into any of this. I just want to show you the scope of this course. So chapter 1 is contextual. It's just to talk about defensive security and network security in general. It's a lot of detailed material, but no labs or just a single lab. And then chapter 2 is securing network devices. Chapter 3 is AAA. Chapter 4, firewalls. 5, intrusion prevention, intrusion detection, securing local area networks. And then we get into the really heavy stuff after that, which is encryption and IPsec. So this is what's in scope for this chapter. And I will be using the slides for the lecture, but I would like you to go and over the Net Academy curriculum because it's a lot richer than the slides. So don't just do the slides and say, I am done. The slides are about maybe 70%. And if you only do the slides, you're missing a lot. So my recommendation is let's do the slides in the classroom and then you go over this chapter material on your own. And for today, I'm telling you up front, it's a very large chapter and I don't really want to go over all the boring details because I don't think I'm going to add any more value than Net Academy. So I'm going to go over it, but I do expect you to go over it on your own and take your time going over each of these different terminologies and so on. Zoom sessions, I am taping this class. I will be taping all classes and I will be sending you the URLs for Tuesday and Thursday when I send my weekly update, but they're also available here. So if we were to go back to the navigation pane and go to files, and this is where you will find all of the Zoom recorded sessions. There's nothing here yet, but there will be 1 entry by the end of today, and there will be 2 entries by the end of Thursday. So if you do miss a class and you would like to watch the recording, this is where you would find the recordings. So we're doing this course online. We don't have physical switches. We don't have physical routers. We don't have physical ASAs. And we'll talk about ASAs later on. Adaptive Security Appliance. It's a Cisco security appliance, just like the name says. But we do have Packet Tracer, and I'm grateful for Packet Tracer. Packet Tracer is highly capable. It doesn't do everything, but it does enough. And we should be able to get all the values we want out of this course using Packet Tracer. So we're relying exclusively on Packet Tracer. It's highly capable. It doesn't emulate all of the iOS and the ASA features. Do the parts you can in Packet Tracer, and if you hit the wall, be creative. And I've had many students do exactly this in the past. And sometimes you can only go thus far and stop because Packet Tracer can't take you any further. And sometimes they get creative and find workarounds. But Packet Tracer is the tool. And I'm a huge fan of Packet Tracer. And we're going to start using it on Wednesday for our labs. And if you've taken a networking course from me before, we've used it in each of these networking courses. And if you're somewhat new to Packet Tracer or you're not 100% comfortable with Packet Tracer, there are a lot of excellent tutorials out there. So go to YouTube and type Packet Tracer tutorial and start learning. And if that's not enough, Cisco Net Academy has a 10-hour course on a Packet Tracer. And you can do that course on your own, and you'll probably learn more than you need because it's 10 hours of learning. But you do have to become comfortable with Packet Tracer. And if that's not the case, I'd say make this a priority. And let's use version 7.3. So for those of you that have been using Packet Tracer for a while, make sure you have the latest one. And you can download it from Net Academy. So you go to Student Resources, and you go to Packet Tracer, and you can download 7.3. And the reason why you need 7.3 is because some of the labs I've created use 7.3. And if you're using 7.2, you won't be able to open 7.3. So let's get this out of the way before we get to the labs, because some of the newer labs I've created use 7.3. So we have a Google Drive for 285, and I would encourage you to go there. So I'm gonna go there myself. And I've sent this to you in an email earlier on. And we're going to be looking at the network table today. And these are the slides that we're going to be using in the classroom. And these are the Packet Tracer labs we're going to be doing together. There isn't very much in week 1. And I put this here just as a review. So there isn't really very much in here. We've done this in CIS 151, 152. This is basically how to connect to a router or a switch to configure it using a Yoast cable, which is a serial cable, or using Telnet, or using SSH. So this is simply a review. And I would like all of you to do this one lab in chapter 1. But I want to show you chapter 2, and I don't want you to be afraid. So get ready. So this is chapter 2. So this is why we're starting chapter 2 on Wednesday, because we have quite few material that we want to go through. And I don't think there's anything scary about chapter 2. It's just long. And then for every topic that is covered in chapter 2, I've created a lab. And we will go over a few slides and we'll do a lab. And we'll go over a few slides and we'll do a lab. And it may be very helpful for you to download all these files before Wednesday. That way you don't have to keep coming back to this folder to download the files. So go ahead and download all of these to your local PC, and that way they will be sitting on your local PC when you need them. And the only thing I have right here is chapter 1 and chapter 2. And over the weekend, I will add chapter 3 and I will add chapter 4. And I don't think all of them are going to be as many labs as chapter 2, but there will be many. There will be, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 labs for each chapter. And again, if you've taken a course from me before, there's nothing new here. This is how I teach. This is my MO. Let me see, what else do we have in here? Okay, and the network table, I'm gonna go ahead and open it. In fact, I'm gonna open it from my local drive, and then we can talk about it. So we're down here. Any questions on anything we've covered so far?
Yeah, you keep saying Wednesday. Do you mean Thursday?
Say it again.
You keep saying Wednesday. Do you mean
Yes,
Thursday?
yes. Thank you, Anne. Forgive me, Anne. And I make this mistake often. So whenever I say Monday, replace it with Tuesday. Whenever I say Wednesday, replace it with Thursday. So it's a Tuesday, Thursday class, and most of the networking classes I teach are Monday, Wednesday. I think this is the only Tuesday, Thursday. So I will make this mistake again. Just remember, this is a Tuesday, Thursday. Thank you, Anne.
Ziko,
Yes.
you never added me to the G drive for CS 285.
Okay, let me make a
I'm
note.
operating off the M drive, and now that explains a lot. So if you can just
Yes, we don't have access to the M drive, so this is our M drive. So I'm making a note.
Thank you.
Kelly.
That's why I couldn't. I've been so confused. Now I get it.
Drive. Okay, I will take care of it today, and I will send you an email, Kelly.
Thank you.
All right. So some of you know I've been working on a cybersecurity certificate for LBCC, and in fact, it has been approved, and we have the green light to move ahead. I can't tell you when it's going to be offered, but we're working on it. And I just want to go over 3 slides from the slides I've put together to talk to my management about introducing a new cybersecurity certificate at LBCC. So let me see where we are here. Okay. Because this is a network defensive, this is a security course. So we're talking cybersecurity in this course, 284, 285, cybersecurity. Cybersecurity protects the data and integrity of computing assets belonging to or connecting to an organization's network. Its purpose is to defend those assets against all threat actors through the entire life cycle of a cyber attack. So this is what cybersecurity is at a 1,000-foot level. Why we need cybersecurity experts? Why are we thinking about introducing this cybersecurity certificate? Why do we have CS 284 and 285? Okay. 31% of organizations have experienced cyber attacks on operational infrastructure. This is 2019 stats. So this is fairly recent. So this is like 1/3. 1/3 of the companies out there have experienced cyber attack. And number 2 is really scary for me. 38% of global organizations claim they are equipped and able to handle a complex cyber attack. Again, 1/3 of the companies saying, they can handle a complex cyber attack, which basically means 2/3 of the companies out there can't. And this is why we want to introduce a cybersecurity certificate. IoT, as you all know, is Internet of Things. It's your smart TV, your smart fridge, your smart toaster, your smart camera in front of your house. We're up by 600%. And the reason why we have over 20 billion devices on the internet today, the reason why Cisco is telling us we're approaching 50 billions in a year or two, the vast majority of these are IoT devices. I have a friend in Bandon, and he has a nice art collection. and he has cameras and sensors, and each one of these is a computer. Each camera is a computer, each sensor is a computer, and each one of these is a device that can be hacked and compromised and used for whatever purposes the hacker wants to use them for. A business falls victim to a ransomware every 13 seconds. So since we started this class, there has been many ransomware attacks. In most cases, it takes companies about 6 months to detect a data breach. And this is a frightening statement right here. And we have many, many examples. I'm sure you remember a couple of years ago with Target data breach. They didn't know for 3 months. So they were collecting data from Target for 3 months before Target found out that someone has breached their network. And this is not counting the millions of personal devices. So these are company stats, not individual people stats. And then the last slide I want to go over is why teach cybersecurity, why some of you may be interested in a cybersecurity certificate, or why you should take CS 284 and 285 very seriously. Okay. There are over 300,000 unfilled cybersecurity jobs in the United States. And the demand is increasing. By 2021, which is around the corner, the number of unfilled cybersecurity jobs is expected to balloon to 3.5 billion. And this is before the coronavirus, because we're all working virtually. Students taking classes like we're doing right here today virtually. And of course, the need for networking and the need for network administrators and system administrators and cybersecurity experts is only going to go up, because we are today much more dependent on the internet than we were a month ago. And that's not going to change. Cybersecurity job postings are up 74%. Cybersecurity expenditure are expected to reach 1 trillion in 2024. And the annual cost of cyber crime damage is expected to hit 5 trillion this year. So this is how much damage these hackers are inflicting on the world economy. And this is why this course is important, and this is why you should take cybersecurity seriously. And I think it will do your career a lot of good if you learn as much as you can about cybersecurity and what you can do to protect yourself and your enterprise. Any questions here? Okay. So I want to bring up, let me see. Nothing new here. So I brought up the Ziko network table I use in every network and system administration course I teach. And I'm not going to go over it, but I want to say this is really, really important that all of you get your brain around this. Because this is the map of the forest. So before you walk into the forest, make sure you have a map. If you don't have a map, you're easily going to get lost and confused. And if you do have a map, you can open up the map and see where you are. And it will give you a clue to where do you go from here. And in this course, we're going to be focusing a lot on encryption protocols, everybody, right? Just as you would imagine. And later on in this course, we're going to be focusing a lot on IPsec. So we use SSL and TLS every single day. Every time you do HTTPS, you're using SSL, TLS. Every time you do SSH, you're using SSL, TLS. And we've been talking a lot about IPsec, but we haven't really been diving into it. And we will be diving deep into IPsec later in this course. And it's good to know that SSL and TLS operate at the application layer, at the TCP/IP application layer, and IPsec operates at the internet or the network layer. And we will come back to this table later on. But I would encourage all of you to take some time and take a closer look at this table. And if you have questions, do let me know. But it would be of great help to you now and later if you can get your brain around this table. And it's a lot, but it's high level. You know, this is 1,000 foot, 5,000 foot level. So let's do slides. And please ask questions. So this is chapter 1. Chapter 1 is like all chapter 1s, is introduction. We don't really dive deep into anything. It's just an introduction. It's setting the context for this course. And they go over an awful lot of terminology, which I don't really have the time to go over, nor will I do as good of a job as Net Academy. So I will do this in an hour or so. If you need a break in half an hour, let me know. We can take a break. But I do expect you to go over the Net Academy material for chapter 1 and internalize everything they talk about. So when we talk about network, we're talking about threats, vulnerabilities, mitigation, and risk. So you can't just protect your enterprise from the outside. I mean, if it's your house and it's just you living inside the house or a few of you living inside the house, then yes, you can focus on threats coming from the internet, from the outside. But if you're a large enterprise, you certainly want to protect the enterprise from the outside, but it's not sufficient. And just to give you an example, when I was still working for Hewlett-Packard in 2012, Hewlett-Packard had 350,000 people. Do you think they were all honorable, trustworthy individuals, all 350,000 of them? So I'm sure you remember in the good old days, they would build walls around the city or the cities, and that's good to protect the city from an outside attack, but that didn't protect you from your neighbor breaking into your house and stealing something. So what they are telling us here is threats can come from the outside and they can also come from the inside. And you can't focus exclusively on the outside. And you want to protect yourself from the outside because we have, 20 billion plus devices in the worldwide internet. But you also want to make sure you're protecting yourself from the inside as well. So why do you want to protect yourself? Because you want to protect the data. The data is by far the most valuable asset many companies have. And we could be talking about email or web. We could be talking about unencrypted devices, an employee that has a laptop and they have some sensitive data, and that sensitive data is not encrypted, and it becomes an issue if that computer was to get stolen. In the Net Academy material, each of these plus signs is a link, and when you click on it, it's going to either give you a description or draw something. And I recommend that when you get to these kinds of slides that you click on everything. Okay. So we're talking about campus area network, a site area network, if you like. And this is the connection to the internet. And I mentioned adaptive security appliance before. Everybody, you see this term here, ASA firewall. We're going to be using ASA devices later on. For those of you that took 284, did you use ASA devices in CS284?
No, I don't think we did. No, we just used routers.
Very good. Thank you, Cody. We will be using them later in this course. And just like the name says, it's a security device. It is a device, it's a Cisco device that was designed specifically for security. And when we talk security, we're talking firewalls, right? Everybody we're talking malware, we're talking access control lists, we're talking intrusion prevention, we're talking intrusion detection. And it is a device that has all of these things. And in fact, I'm going to show you what these devices look like. So if I was to say Cisco ASA, and that's what they look like. Okay, and as often is the case, there is a variety of ASA devices. And a couple of months ago, I was touring the LBCC data center, and no surprise, you know, they have a router that connects LBCC to the internet, and immediately behind that router, they have an ASA device. And that is quite common. This is like super common. I bet you if you were to walk inside most organizations on planet Earth, they will have a router that connects them to the internet, and immediately behind that they have some kind of a security appliance, whether it's a Cisco device or some other vendor device, a security appliance. And Cisco has this ASA, Adaptive Security Appliance. IPS is intrusion prevention. So malware, which served us well for a long time, is not good enough anymore. Just to have an anti-malware, because anti-malware uses static signature files, and we need a mean of dynamically recognizing threats. And this is what intrusion detection and intrusion preventions do. We've covered AAA before, authentication, authorization, and accounting. And we'll come back to it later on. And this is encrypted mail, encrypted websites over here. So basically, we want to protect the entire campus area network. And you can see here, this is the norm, everybody. You have a router that connects you to the internet, and then you have some kind of a security appliance immediately behind it. And then on the right-hand side of this ASA device is the internal network, and below it, okay, is the DMZ. So this is the DMZ, and this is a feature that is built into ASA. And we will go over ASA in great detail later on. Okay. Increasingly, especially now, you know, more and more people are working out of their homes, and we have to secure those home networks and home devices. And we have a wireless access point, which all of you do. And your wireless access point is a security device. It does have a stateful firewall. You can leave the house and go anywhere, but nobody can come back into your house unless you enable port forwarding. And this wireless access point supports Ethernet cables and supports wireless as well. For example, in my house, I have many wireless devices, and the computer I'm using right now is sitting right next to my wireless access point, and I use an Ethernet cable to connect it to the wireless access point. I can use wireless, but we all know cables are more secure, more reliable, and faster. So if your computer is right next or close to your wireless access point, I would recommend that you use an Ethernet cable to connect. Remote access, and we're doing an awful lot of remote access these days, and remote access can be site to site or individual to a site. And you can see in the upper picture, the branch site, we have a router, and you can see the bricks, and that means a firewall. So it's a router that has firewall capabilities, and then you would use that router to connect a remote site to corporate. The picture below it, that's an ASA device. So you can use an ASA device, which is a router and a security appliance to connect remotely. And then individuals will basically use an individual to a site remote access. So you can VPN. And I think all of you know what a VPN is, virtual private network. So you're using the internet to VPN into your company. And a POP stands for point of presence. And this is a very old term. You may not have heard it before, but in the good old days when we had dial-up, and I'm talking many years ago, we had dial-up POPs. And you would have a pool of modems on site, and that pool of modems is a POP, a point of presence, and then people will dial into it. So that's what a POP is, when remote users will somehow connect to a main site. If you have questions, please stop. Data centers, absolutely positively, and we've talked about this before, data centers look like prisons, everybody, and I want to show you. Okay, so let's say Facebook data center, because that's where all the assets are. And if I was to go to images, everybody, this doesn't look like a lovely site where any of us would like to go and work every day. Okay, it looks more like a prison, and it looks like a prison intentionally, because they don't want anyone to break in, nor do they want anyone to break out. And they have a lot of security. They have physical barriers, and then they have all kind of network security that is built inside the data center to make sure that if someone was able to break into the site, they can't break into the computers where the data is. And this is true everywhere in planet Earth. You go and you look at any of these large data centers, and we have several of them here in Oregon, and they all look like prisons. And the one story I like to tell is one time I went to, where did I go? I went to Houston on a visit to HP, where we have 2 large data centers, and I wanted to visit one of the data centers. And that's the only place where I saw guns inside HP. So they had armed guards, and I had been with the company forever, and I've never seen a gun until I went to a data center. So this is how seriously they take security inside and around the data center. Okay. So there's all kind of issues with cloud computing and virtual devices and networks. Okay. So let's take a few minutes and talk about hacking, everybody. So we have white hat hackers, gray hat hackers, and black hat hackers. And it's really important that you know the difference between these. So a white hat hacker is also called an ethical hacker. And these are guys that know a lot about networking, computers, and breaking in and defending networks and computers. And they use their knowledge to protect the company assets. So these are the good guys. So white hat hackers, ethical hackers are the good guys. These are the guys, this is you. And companies want to hire you because they want you to use your skills to protect their assets. Black hat is the opposite, unethical hacker. These are guys that want to break in because they want to steal data that they can sell, information that they can sell. So white, black, the opposite of one another. Gray hat hackers, these are guys that break in, but they're not interested in making money. They either do it just for the fun of it, because they want to see if they can break in, or because they have some political agenda, but they're not doing it because they want to profit from it. So white, gray, black, ethical, unethical. And you hear these terms a lot, ethical hackers, unethical hackers. And if you just use the term hacker, not white, gray, black, just hacker, okay? Usually they're talking about white hat hackers. And if you want to use a different term for black hat hackers, it's crackers. And you can laugh, I didn't come up with these terms. So you can use white hat, gray hat, black hat. Hackers, we're talking about white hat. Crackers, we're talking about black hat. Ethical, unethical. Okay. I love this slide. This is one of my favorite slides. Okay. And it's showing us that in the good old days, we didn't really have very many tools that hackers could use. So they had to rely heavily on their technical knowledge. So all of those different kind of hackers, technically they had to be very, very sophisticated. And now we have so many wonderful tools. They're saying that we're relying heavily on these tools, and the technicians don't have to be nearly as skilled as they used to be, because we have more tools that can help us do what we want to do. And this is very true, and it will continue to be true. You don't have to be highly sophisticated to launch a security attack these more. You just have to be resourceful. You have to go to the internet, and you can Google your way, and you can find tools, and then you can use the tools to do the dirty work for you. You don't have to do the dirty work yourself. Before, there were no tools, so you had to do the work yourself. And this will continue to be the case. It will continue to be the case because every day we have more and more tools, and we can rely on those tools to do the work. Like I said, they have an awful lot of terminology, and I just don't have the time to go over each and every one of them, but I will let you do this. But I do want to talk about password crackers. Okay. And by now you all know we have single factor and multi-factor authentication. Single factor usually is an account and a password. Multi-factor, you're using something in your head, which is a password. You're using something on your body, which is usually a smartphone or a token like this, or you're using your body. So single factor, you're using one of those three. Multi-factor, you're using 2 or 3. And increasingly, financial companies want to use all 3. I have a Schwab account, and I've always used this token after I enter my account and password to log on. And lately, they've been asking me to use my voice in the top of my password, my token, just for increased security. So when it comes to cracking passwords, we have 3 ways to do it. Number 1 is to guess. And you will be surprised how many people use easy to guess passwords. And that's what you see an awful lot in the movies. You know, they always guess at the very last minute. Okay. And people use their names, their children's name, their pets' names in their passwords with different combinations. Number 2 is a dictionary attack, where you're using each word in the English dictionary with 100 different combinations. And number 3 is basically trying every single combination. If it's a 32-bit password, nobody uses a 32-bit passwords. We have 4.28 billion combinations, and you try all of them. And while that's impossible for you and me to do, it's fairly easy and quick for a computer to do. And this is why passwords keep getting longer and longer. Not so much the password you type, but the password that is stored. And according to the experts today, the minimum password should be 80 bits or longer these days. And we will talk more about hashing later on in this course, because this is what we do with passwords. We hash it into a hash code or key, and that's what we store. You're not really storing the password that you type in. You're storing the hash key of the password. And we will talk more about hashing later on. Malware, I think we all know a lot about malware. There's nothing really new here. Malware has been around for a long time. You no longer have to pay for it. You can get a good anti-malware for free these days, including Defender from Microsoft, which I like. What you have to pay for these days is IPS and IDS, intrusion prevention, intrusion detection, which we'll talk more about later on. We all know what a virus is. It's a piece of code that was designed to do harm, delete, corrupt, etc. A worm is a virus that will self-replicate, and worms are really dangerous for enterprises, because once a worm goes through the company firewall inside the company, it spreads very, very, very quickly. And within hours, you know, you'll have a massive number of computers that are infected with this worm if you don't have defenses against it. And Trojan horse, I think we all know the story of Troy and the Trojan horse. And this is basically where a malware is hiding behind something innocent. You say, wow, you know, this is a great calculator, it's a great picture of X, Y, and Z, and then you download that file, and what's inside the file is a malware. And a Trojan horse malware can be anything. It can be a virus, it can be a worm, it can be a ransomware. It can give you access to that computer so you can log onto that computer and use it for whatever purpose is. Trojan horse is just a category that a malware is hiding behind something innocent. I love this slide because it shows you how rapidly worms spread. Remember, they're self-replicating. I read a story not too long ago about a worm getting inside Aramco in Saudi Arabia. And when they came back to work the next day, every single computer was infected. So they left their computers on, their anti-malware didn't have a defense against that worm, brand new worm. And it just spread to every computer overnight. A worm component is propagate, which means spread. And then you do what you want to do, including launching a DOS, which is a denial of service. We'll talk more about DOS and DDoS later on. And then go dormant, and then repeat the cycle. So there's all kind of network attacks. And here we're talking about reconnaissance, which means, you know, you're just trying to see where you can break in. Access, where you have access to devices. And DOS, which stands for denial of service. And I think we all know what reconnaissance means. You're just scanning, you're looking for the weak spots, the weak areas where you can break into a network or a computer. And access is when you actually break in. And denial of service is usually a crude attack to prevent a computer or a company from providing the service or the services they provide. So if you're upset with the IRS and you don't want people to be able to log on to irs.gov, if you have access to enough computers, you can launch a denial of service where you just overwhelm them. And you can do a sync flood, you can do a smurf attack, you can just do a ping. And the point is just to overwhelm them so they wouldn't be able to provide the service. So it's a very crude attack, unsophisticated, but effective in terms of being able to overwhelm the computer with an awful lot of data that it is unable to do its job. Social engineering is almost always the weakest link. So when you talk to security experts, they're always talking about the weakest link, which is you and I, which is people. So you can put all the fancy devices and network security means in place. If you don't educate the people, this is the importance of this slide. And if people can be manipulated or naive enough to provide the hackers with whatever they want, then all of that fancy equipment isn't going to do you an awful lot of good. And we mitigate social engineering by educating. So we have to educate the employees and make sure they cannot be used by a hacker to expose the company assets. This is the denial of service. You just overwhelm. And here you can see we're just using ping, a repeated ping. And if you have access to many devices, you know, those pings will add up and you will just overwhelm the network and the device. DDoS is distributed, and DOS attacks are almost always distributed because you need a very large number of computers for that crude attack, and they're probably not all sitting under one roof. Mitigating threats, we hear this term a lot these days, mitigating, especially with coronavirus. This is where we are. We're mitigating the coronavirus threat. And it basically means to reduce. So with coronavirus, we want to reduce the number of people that are infected, and therefore we want to reduce the number of people that are dying. It's not going to bring it down to zero. We just want to reduce. This is why we're doing all that social distancing, et cetera, et cetera. And when we talk about threats, we're always talking about mitigating, because we can't eliminate all threats. But what we want to do is we want to reduce, we want to mitigate. And that we can do. So security is a high priority. I keep saying, if you were to ask 100 CIOs, right here, Chief Information Officer, the top IT person in any company, what do you go to bed worrying about these days? If they don't tell you security, then fire them, because that is #1 concern for everybody these days, security. And some companies have hired security specialists to lead those security efforts inside a company. And this is going to depend on the company, what they do for a living, how large, how sophisticated, etc. So almost every company has a CIO. We have a CIO at LBCC. I don't really believe we have a Chief Information Security Officer at LBCC, nor do I believe we have a Security Operational Manager at LBCC, or maybe someone is wearing multiple hats and do this part-time. But if you were to go to the large companies, Google, Facebook, Microsoft, etc., they probably have each of these different roles, and they have a person working full-time, because for them that is a full-time job to worry about security. And the CIO has lots of other things to worry about, and security is a full-time job by itself. So what they're showing us here is we have an increasing number of people that are specialized and focused exclusively on security, not just providing services and making sure the network can handle the traffic, etc., but they're focused on security. And we have lots of different organizations that are focused on security as well. CIA, this is not the Central Intelligence Agency. This is confidentiality, integrity, availability. And I don't think there's anything new here. We've covered AAA before, we've covered CIA before, and we'll cover them again in this course. And confidentiality, we're talking encryption. This is how you ensure confidentiality. Integrity is making sure that the data didn't change intentionally or unintentionally while sitting in storage or while it's being transferred over the network. Good, everybody? And what we use here for integrity is hashing. And a few minutes ago, if you remember, I said, if you were to create a new password, you don't really store the password unencrypted or encrypted inside the computer. You hash it and you store the hash key. So we use hashing for integrity. And hashing is something we'll be talking about. It's something really important for you to get your brains around, because we use it an awful lot. And I want to come back to my table. And if you were to look at the frame, we have the body of the frame, we have the header, and we have the trailer. Anyone remembers what do we put inside the trailer for that frame? It's a CRC. Thank you very much, Cody. And a CRC is a hash code. That's what the CRC is. So we take the body of the frame, we put it through a hashing algorithm, and it will give us a unique hash key. And that's what we put inside the trailer of the frame. And that is an integrity check. We use it for an integrity check. And then availability, which makes sure that people that need those services have access to the services. And it's always a balance. It's always a balance between confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So it's really easy to make those computers secure. Just turn them off and unplug them from the network, and they're secure, but they're useless because they're unavailable. And it's easy to make them highly available, but you also want to make sure that they are secure. So whenever we're talking about security and availability, it's that dance and trying to find the proper balance between the two. And the answer is, it depends on the company, and it depends on the data that they collect and store, etc. So there is no one answer for everybody. The answer is it depends. You tell me what kind of data you capture, and I'll tell you, how important is security versus availability. So what they're talking about here is companies need to have a network security plan. So you don't just do security in the fly. That good companies have to sit down and they have to strategize and think and develop detailed plan for security. And that's what good companies do. They have plans. They've thought about all of this in advance, and then they execute the plan. Okay. So we have a network security policy objectives. Okay. And the plan is fairly detailed, and I skipped over it, and I will let you read it. Cisco looks at security like an artichoke, meaning that you start from the outside and you dig deeper and deeper. And if you have multiple layers around that artichoke, then that's good, because it means black hat hackers, crackers, unethical hackers have a lot more work before they can get to the valuable data. So this is strictly a Cisco analogy, this artichoke. I think we saw this slide before. We talked about the adaptive security appliance, which I said is a device that is designed specifically for security, and it has a lot of security features built into it. And IPS stands for intrusion prevention, and IDS stands for intrusion detection. And we'll talk, I think we have a whole chapter on IPS, IDS later on. This is a marketing slide from Cisco. This is a Cisco curriculum, and Cisco wants to sell their products and services. We're still grateful for what they give us. And they're saying, come to us. We have a suite of products and services that deal specifically with security, and we can secure your network and your assets. Okay. Another Cisco slide and another Cisco slide. So Cisco is the 800-pound gorilla in the networking field, and that's not just devices, everybody. So Cisco doesn't just sell switches and routers. They sell services as well. And they sell security services. And that's what we're talking about here. Defending the network. This is what we were talking about before. Best practices, develop a written security policy, educate employees. Absolutely, this is really a must. Remember, if this ever comes up during an interview, okay, people are the weakest link. So if they were to ask what's the weakest link in security, and you always say people are the weakest link. So you have to educate the people. That's how you mitigate that. Control physical access to systems. This is why data centers look like prisons, because we want to control physical access. And if a person was to get their hands on a computer, the battle is half lost, because now they have access to the drives where the data, they may not be able to log onto the computer, but they can connect this drive to another computer and access the data. And we can mitigate that by encrypting everything. Encrypt and password protect sensitive data. And the norm, not now, for many years, has been that if you were to use a company's laptop or a mobile device, they will demand that you have an encryption product that encrypts everything. That way, if the laptop gets stolen or lost, at least the company has high confidence that people won't be able to get their hands on the most valuable part of that computer, which is the data. Okay. And I'm not going to go over the list. You can go over it. And I know you will when you go over the Net Academy material. We talked plenty about malware. Malware is legacy at this point. You don't really have to pay for anti-malware. What you pay for these days is all the additional security features. A lot of people have a security suite that includes anti-malware, includes a firewall, includes an intrusion prevention, includes intrusion detection, and that's what you pay for these days. We talked about worms. Okay. And then we have to quarantine, treat, and then inoculate. And I think this is a pretty good slide. So if you don't have a defense against a brand new worm, then that's what you do with it. You quarantine the machines that have that worm and you find a treatment. And then you update your signature file and you distribute it to everybody. And this is what McAfee and Microsoft and everyone else does. We talked about denial of service, and I said it's a crude attack, and the purpose isn't to break into the network or into the computers, it's to overwhelm the network and the computer so they can provide that service. And if you were to look down below, it talks about IPS, intrusion, prevention, firewall, and they talk about Cisco ASA, which is this adaptive security appliance, and ISR is a router from Cisco. It stands for Integrated Services Router. It's a router with security features, basically. This is not new, NFP, the network framework platform. And we've seen this slide before with the 3 different planes. We have the control plane, we have the management plane, and we have the data plane. So if you were to think hard, I think you will remember this slide from previous courses. And I know I cover it in at least 2 or 3 other courses before this one. And the control plane is we're talking about the routing protocol and the IP routing table. This is what lives inside that plane. And the management plane is exactly what it says. It's to manage that device remotely, most of the time using a Yoast cable if you can get to it remotely. And then the data plane, and this is how we forward the data from an incoming port to an outgoing port. And this is, by the way, is a Cisco slide, which means this is how Cisco sees their network devices. If you were to go to Northern Telecom, Hewlett Packard, they may have a slightly different take on it. But this is a Cisco course. Cisco is the 800-pound gorilla in the networking field. And I think it's important that we get our brain around this NFP framework. So yes, of course, we want to secure the control plane, because if a black hat hacker, unethical hacker was able to get their hands on a network device and can manipulate the data inside the control plane, it's a huge problem, because then they can forward the data to wherever they want to. Okay. And Cisco is saying, you know, we have means of securing the control plane. Securing the management plane. Management plane is when you want to log on remotely. So they're saying, and we cover a lot of this in chapter 2, by the way, which we start doing on Wednesday. So let's make sure that we have a password policy. Let's present a legal notification. Let's make sure that people are logging on using SSH or HTTPS with encryption. Enabling role-based, we'll talk about in chapter 2. So they're saying, you know, these are the means to mitigate the security around the management plane. And securing the data plane ACLs anti-spoofing, and layer 2 port security. And we've covered some of this in CIS 152, and we will go over it in more detail in this chapter. Sorry, in this course. And port security is the foundation for a lot of layer 2 security. So in order to get to the more sophisticated layer 2 security, we have to enable port security first, because it is a foundation for these security features that we can add in the top of port security. Questions? Please, everybody, I beg you, and I want to stress this, this is not nearly enough. Don't say, okay, I'm done with chapter 1. You're not done with chapter 1. I'm done with the slides for chapter 1. You can easily spend a few hours on chapter 1, because I skipped over a lot of details, and I did this intentionally because I don't think I'm going to add any value over and above what's inside NetAcademy. I would much rather save my energy for the labs, which we start doing on Wednesday. So I want to encourage all of you to spend some quality time on chapter 1 inside NetAcademy. And you will see there's a lot of nuggets in there. There's a lot of very valuable stuff in there that I was skimming over intentionally. Questions, comments? I'm all ears.
I think I'm good. I just, like you said, I need to go back over the Cisco actual course slides.
Yep.
Because I've kind of been following through while you go through the slides, but there is a ton more material there. And some of the stuff I was trying to take notes on from the Cisco stuff. So I just need to go back through both.
Okay. And that's Frank, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and thank you, Frank. And just to show you, I'm not going to go over this. There's just an awful lot of it, everybody. I just want to show you very quickly, you know, there really is an awful lot of stuff in here. And yes, it's similar to what we covered, except, you know, they cover it in a lot more detail. And detail is important. When we talk about security, details is very, very important. So you want to get your brain around the details before we dive deeper into chapter 2, 3, 4, and so on. And these are the links I was talking about. You know, in the slides, they just show you this. However, here, you know, you can click on these links and get a better definition to what they're talking about, more clarity. Questions, comments?
I'm good. Thank you, Ziko.
So I have a question for you guys. So when are the chapter exams due?
Sunday.
Sunday.
Right.
Monday.
And how about the lab?
Wednesdays.
The following Wednesday. Okay. And I'm not going to reopen the chapter exams. The chapter exam is due on Sunday, and I expect you to do it by Sunday. And if you're unable to complete the lab by Wednesday, you can email it to me, and I will subtract some points depending on how late it is after that. But I don't intend to go back to NetAcademy and extend the exams or the labs. But you can email me the labs afterward. And my recommendation for Wednesday, everybody, sorry, Anne, I caught myself, for Thursday, my expectation is that we're going to start chapter 2 and we're going to do labs. And I will show you on my local computer, 285, packet tracer. And we're not going to do all of this on Wednesday. We're going to do all of this Thursday. Here I go again with Wednesday. But you know what I'm talking about. We will do this Thursday, Tuesday, and Thursday of next week. So we will have time, but I quickly want to move into hands-on. I'm not going to repeat what I did today, talk for an hour. We will go over a handful of slides, do a lab, go over a handful of slides, do a lab. And these are in the labs that you're going to be working on. But the labs you will be working on will be similar to what we're doing in the classroom together.
Ziko,
Go ahead.
where are we gonna find the chat or the labs that we're gonna do in class?
Very good. Thank you for asking. Do you have access to the Google Drive? I sent an email with a link. So let's go to the Google Drive. For CS285. And there's a folder called PT Labs. And chapter 1 has one lab, which I'm going to let you do on your own because it is a review. We did these labs in CIS 151. We did these labs in CIS 152. We will probably do them in 153. So this is just a review. But then if you were to go to chapter 2, this is the stuff we're going to start doing on Thursday. So please download all these files to your PC. That way you don't have to keep going back to the Google Drive to access those files. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did. I don't know if you'd already said that or not. I don't know. I just wasn't sure where to find all this stuff at. Is it the same case for was it your 153 class, I think? You said
No. For 153, I have a different Google Drive. But I'm going to show you something. If you were to go to Net Academy, and if you were to go to email, what am I? If you were to go to, and if you were to go to email, and this is how I will communicate with you, everybody. You see, I have an email here. And send, and just look at a previous email I've sent you, and I sent the link. Here it is. So the welcome emails, I sent 2 separate welcome emails, and the Google Drive is included in there. Do you see it, Zach?
Yeah, I see it. Thank you very much.
Okay, good. No, thank you for asking. We want to get this out of the way early. But that's how I will be communicating with you. I will be sending a weekly update, and if there's something I want to say, I will send you an email, and I expect you when to log on to Net Academy that you keep your eye on this inbox and you read the emails from me. And if you want to communicate with me, you can send me an email this way or to my Lynn Benton email account. I do read both of them. What else? Any other question, comment? We're good?
Ziko, just one quick question for you. I saw in the future chapters, they mentioned the 5505 and the 5506. I have a 5520. Is that going to be fine?
Oh, that's a very old ASA device.
Yeah, it's got 8.4 on it.
Yeah.
Would that suffice, do you think?
We may run into some issues. We do have 5505s on campus, Cody.
Oh, okay.
So, and we will not be using these for a few more weeks.
Right.
So let's hope in a few more weeks things will be safer. And then maybe I can meet you in campus and give you one of those.
Okay.
Sounds good?
Yeah.
So you remind me when we get there, because I would rather you use a newer ASA device instead of a really old one.
Okay.
And I've never used, a super old one, so I don't know what features are included, not included. But we do have a bunch of them on site, and I will be happy to lend you one later on.
Okay.
Going once, twice. Thank you very much, everybody. We will see you on Thursday. We'll start chapter 2 on Thursday. You have a great day.
Thank you, Ziko.
Thanks, Ziko.
Thank you, Ziko.
Bye.
You're welcome. Bye.
Thanks.
Goodbye.